Today we have a wood panel which covered in gesso, 16 by, let's call it 9 1/8, 9 1/4. It fits this vintage, very plain wood frame, which has housed an old plein air sketch that I did a couple years ago. And just figured I would set up the back of that same panel and use it for a little painting that might be used in preparation for a much larger painting. So we're actually gonna stumble upon an old photo that my wife took when we were visiting Whistler, British Columbia, Canada. It's a beautiful scene featuring the Squamish River and some trees and grass and mountains in the background. So we're going to paint this nice little landscape format. Once again, we might blow it up into a much larger studio painting. It's just a great memory. We got to go fishing. We caught some pinks while fly fishing on the Squamish River. So we're going to capture that moment in paint. We're going to be using acrylic paint. And we'll just lay in some initial shapes today and probably finish this off in 2 or 3 live streams. This is the open studio live stream. I don't do a lot of explanation. I do have some educational content on the channel, some art and creativity related book reviews, also some instructional videos, also quite a few hike and paint adventure videos where you can come along with me and paint on plein air after a brief hike. So I'll be right back. I'm going to get my reference materials. We'll start laying out some paints and we'll get started. Let's see if I can pull out the reference photo for you. There we go. I have it formatted so pretty closely matches the dimensions of our panel here. You can see there's a nice little pathway. I might move things around a little bit so that pathway, for example, is not so close to the middle. But I also might add some interesting cloud formations because it was a really clear day. But this is the scene we're going to base this painting on. And again, it's kind of the approach on a brief hike to the Squamish River where we're able to go do a little fly fishing and catch some pinks. This was many years ago. It was actually a work reward related trip. And my wife captured this beautiful image, so we're gonna paint it a couple times. And in today's session, it's kind of, you never know, I might change my mind, but I'd like to I think I'd like to actually create a large studio painting of this scene. And this first run at this, sometimes working through a scene more than once, it'll steal some of the liveliness of the painting and the scene, but sometimes it'll actually really help you create a much better painting. So My hope is that that does that for us in this case. Just gonna adjust my camera just a little bit. I want you to be able to see my reference material and my canvas. So the reference material right there, canvas right there. I'm gonna lay out some paints and we'll get started. Show you something. Yesterday I was on a trip to Washington, D.C. And if you follow my work, maybe you saw this, but I had kind of an epic fail. It wasn't a total failure. I just ran out of time. I did this little mini tin plein air painting from Farragut Square in Washington, D.C. And it was early in the morning, and then all of a sudden the weather just went crazy. The temperature dropped about 20 degrees, rain, snow. I had to pack up. I wasn't able to finish it. But that's what I was doing yesterday, and I know I didn't do an open studio live stream. I just couldn't incorporate that session into this process. But we're back at it today. We're going to start with, I'm going to use a little transparent orange oxide. We'll lay in some initial marks and tone the canvas, and I might put a little bit of burnt umber on here as well, which is a little bit of a darker value than this transparent orange oxide, and we'll get our initial maybe suggestion of the major shapes and values worked in. So let's see, back. So there we have my initial palette. Transparent, orange oxide, burnt umber, and black. And we have wood panel, 3 layers of gesso. It's texturized a little bit. I thought that might make this painting a little more interesting. I'm going to start with transparent orange oxide. I'm just going to tone this and get rid of all this white. To my burnt umber. sure what I'm gonna do with this yet. I might move this a couple times, but curve it a little bit. You definitely want the indication of the river to be below that halfway point. We don't want that to be in the middle. So we're gonna lower the horizon line just a little bit. We'll redraw this a couple times, so I'm not too worried about. Detail. I'm gonna mix up some of that burnt umber and orange. Darken a little round. I might revert back to the original here with this pathway. I think it'll work. I think it'll work. We'll just widen it a little bit in the foreground, not a lot, not nearly as much as I just indicated there. And we'll curve it not quite as much. And we'll have that disappear. Mixture of burnt umber and transparent orange oxide. The river is going to be probably the second lightest value shape. Next to the sky. The ground plane is going to be maybe the third lightest value. Where the grass is. The darkest values will be the shadows near the base of the trees. variance in the value scale on the foreground. Let's get some indication of that going there. Just gonna water down the mixture to indicate the mountain shape in the distant background here. Much lighter when we're done. Probably wipe some of that away now. So we'll put some marks in. This is just quick sketch laying in the basic value shapes, lights and darks. Good morning, hello. Thanks for joining me here. We're painting a scene on the Squamish River a few years back in Whistler, British Columbia. I'm going to lay in just a few more indications of some of the darker values here. Mixture of burn umber and black. little shadow coming across the path right here from trees. Another one here. Don't worry too much about that. That's all going to get destroyed. The next layer of paint. Okay. I'll rinse out my brush, and I'm actually going to work in a little bit of the sky color. This is acrylic, so this is all drying very, very fast. So unlike when we're working with oils and we can push paint around for a while, we don't have that as a luxury. However, what we do have available to us is that quick drying effect allows us to paint right over the top of the prior layer pretty easily. Just gonna clean off my palette a little bit here. Get some cobalt blue and some white. Titanium white. too much about these edges in between shapes quite yet. I get the whole surface covered. If I lose some edges, if some of the important shapes get modified, I can always come back and correct. This is going to be a little bit of a process. And right now my goal is to get the whole surface covered and all of the main values down in a general sense, not kind of scientifically following any sort of process here. Going on the pathway just a little, and then this is going to be modified a bunch of times. Man, this was such a nice day. We spent probably about 3 hours fishing after a brief lesson. I already knew how to fly fish, but I'd never gone fly fishing on a big, large body of water like this. The Squamish, relative to places that I've gone fly fishing, like Flat Brook, which is close to where we live here in the Poconos, or Rampo River, where I grew up. Those are small rivers. This is a large river, especially by our standards here. And we were going after potentially some bigger fish. There was a chance we could hook a steelhead and steelhead trout and some larger salmon. We hooked into mostly pinkies, they called them. And they were fun, a lot of fun. Not too worried about the gradation of the sky, but generally it's going to get lighter in value and more desaturated. And it could get warmer, it could get cooler, depending upon the conditions, but generally the sky plane is going to get a little bit warmer as you get closer to the horizon. All things remain equal due to the impacts of light having to get through more and more of the atmosphere. And I'm probably going to edit this to include some interesting cloud shapes, because it was such a clear, sunny day that at times there were no clouds in the sky at all, it felt like. So let's see what we get there. All right. Now while I have this blue paint on the brush, I'm going to dip into my orange. So I have this orange on my palette. I'll create kind of a grayish purple. Grayish greenish purple. Use that to restate cooled down just a little bit. Also fill in some of those spots. There's some leader values and punchy orange kind of showing through, kind of mat it down a little bit. So let's see. Just need some of those darker areas. All right, so it looks a little messy, jumbled relative to where it's going to end up, but we have all the basic shapes in. The whole canvas or panel is covered. Just going to show you from my angle here. We're gonna break for now. After about 36 minutes of painting or so, 30 minutes of painting or so. Hello everybody, welcome to my Open Studio live stream. We're recreating a nice little peaceful scene from Photographing Studio of the Squamish River up near Whistler, British Columbia in Canada. And we're going to create a little painting, kind of a test painting, if you will, almost a study. I'm going to try and make it a little bit more refined than a color study. And we'll have 2 or 3 more sessions in order to get it to where we want it to be. We want it to be frameable. We're going to hang it on our wall. We have a frame ready to go. We're painting in acrylics on the back side of a panel that we used for an oil painting, a plein air oil painting. And we're going to work through this. We might convert this into eventually a larger, much larger studio painting, depending upon the feels we get once this is finished from this painting. But appreciate you checking out my Open Studio live stream. Again, not a lot of explanation on these, just inviting you in to join me while I work early in the morning. We will do this most days, not every day, but most. And I see the comments. I'm not the best at replying to comments, but I see Sia, Lazaraga, Wesley Jones, Cram 6480, Sarah 14389. Thank you. Jordan 12356. Thanks. We're going to go ahead and wrap up, and we'll be back with any luck tomorrow. And we'll get quite a bit more work done with this. A lot more color work, a lot more work kind of trying to focus on shapes within the shapes and refining shadows and edges, and maybe even get to the point where we map out a plan and execute on it for the imaginary cloud shapes. And maybe some sparkles on the water. Maybe we'll even finish it tomorrow. We'll see how things go, but at the very least, we'll get more work in on this. Thanks for checking out my channel. Don't forget to check out some of the other content. I have book reviews, mainly art and creativity related book reviews, some instructional videos, and a lot of plein air adventures where I'll take you out on the trail with me. We'll hike a little bit, we'll paint. And anyway, I just encourage you to check that out if it's interesting to you, and appreciate you checking out my stuff. Have a great day. Take care. Be well.